Can Diego Pavia have his Heisman moment this weekend? We have a team total lean in Knoxville. Week 14 market movement you need to know about. And of course, best bets. But before we get into any of that, let's talk about the three biggest games of the weekend. And we start with the Texas A&M Fighting Aggies traveling to Austin. Current total of 51.5. The Aggies are laying 2.5. Bobby, Marcel Reed and the Aggie offense is high flying. And we've seen a lot of improvement in Arch Manning, albeit against weaker defenses in Arkansas, Mississippi State, and Vanderbilt. So, does this set up for a situation where Arch is going to continue down that path of improvement? Can this Aggie defense create those stops? Considering they have a pretty stout offensive line, it seems like if they build a lead, they can keep a lead, which will put Arch Manning in passing situations. What are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I do think this game has a chance to be quite explosive. A&M, Marcel Reed, has been great attacking defenses down the field, and that's exactly how you want to attack this Texas defense that we've talked about a few times. And, of course, the Aggies have an elite offensive line that can neutralize that Texas elite front, especially in pass pro. Reed, better this year. We've talked about it a few times. He's still home run or strikeout type player, has 8 interceptions on the season. And if the Aggies want to try to stay ahead of the down and distance on early downs, or if they can't, I should say, it could set up Reed on third and long, help that Texas pass rush, but also Pete Kwiatkowski, however you pronounce it, scheme it up, make it hard for Reed to go through his progressions. When talking about Texas last week, I shared a note about Arch Manning's sacks and how it connected his performance. Well, the Razorbacks, no sacks against Manning. He had 5 total touchdowns on that 52-37 route of Arkansas. And here I am. But like I said Sunday, concerned about the Texas offensive line against that Aggies front. We have a season's worth of data to show that Texas, no matter how hard they tried, they can't run it. It still bothers me they couldn't run on Mississippi State a month ago. Yes, A&M is just average in rush defense. Yes, 27th in rush success, but 75th in EPA per play, 53rd in just rush yards allowed per rush attempt, I should say. But I just don't trust Texas to have any sort of success here. They're going to need to use Arch in the short passing game as an extension of the run. And Sark's going to quite frankly need to get in his bag and scheme it up. Because if Texas gets in those third and longs, it's going to be an issue there. Sunday night, I said 2.5 and 51.5 was a perfect number. I do think that remains my opinion. I think those who rely on priors will take out Texas threes if they were to reappear at any point this week. And I'm beginning to doubt they show. I do believe Arch is having some improvement, and while the A&M defense has played well in league play, go look at the teams they've played and what that SEC schedule has looked like this season. Do think they're a bit overrated there. I lean to the over 51.5. Obviously, both teams probably having to pass in this one, able to create explosive play downfield. It's not one I've played yet. I'd be more interested if a flat 51 showed, and that's where I'll consider it if it gets there before Friday.
Do you think this is one where both coaches, since this is such a huge game, obviously SEC title implications for A&M, obviously Sark needs to beat A&M to not go 8-4. Does it start off tight and conservative and maybe open up in the second half? So like first
Certainly
half
possible.
under, full game over?
Certainly possible. That's something we've talked about with some of these bigger games, and also including Texas with the Georgia game. We kind of talked about that total there. And kind of the push-pull there and a lot of these SEC totals. So definitely something to think about here, and another reason why it's hard to click over 51.5 with that hook present.
Ohio State at Michigan. Buckeyes currently laying 10 with a total of 44.5. The Death Star status for Ohio State continues. They got the cover against Rutgers last week against a really big number. Some of us had plus 32, and it wasn't enough. As Ohio State beat Rutgers by 33. However, this game really comes down to injury status of the wide receivers, and it's creating some Michigan buyers in the market. Bobby, without a passing threat, are you afraid we might see some more Ryan Day man ball show up in this one at the Big House on Saturday?
Yeah, and weather's going to be a part of this as well. Cold and snow in Ann Arbor on Saturday. But we haven't discussed the number one team in the country very much on this show because of the lack of quality games they've played so far this season. Part of that is their schedule, and part of that is that they are just awesome. Their games become, when that happens, their games become far less interesting and far less competitive. Thing I continuously find interesting when I look at the Buckeyes profile is that they're 136th last in offensive seconds per play, slowest team in the country, slower than all the option-based service academies, yet they are 9-1-1 against the spread, failing to only cover the Purdue game. The Ohio game was a push, by the way, depending on the number you got in that one. I know early Ohio bettors got there, so in that purposes, it's a push. Because I know it mostly closed 28 there. But they're quite literally suffocating and choking out their opponents, still meeting our market expectations in these games, and they're basically running clock right from the jump. In these games, it's actually quite impressive how they're doing that with that combination of statistics and profile. For me, obviously, the handicap does come down to two things: the health of the wide receivers that you mentioned at the top, Carnell Tate, Jeremiah Smith. Jeremiah Smith sounds like he's going to go, probably just holding him out for the Rutgers game. For this game, it seems like I do expect, like I said, I expect both to go. How effective they are, I'm not really sure. We still need that update. The second thing is Ryan Day. OSU's obviously lost 4 straight to Michigan. He has a new offensive coordinator, Brian Hartline. If Day and the Buckeyes decide they want to prove they're more physical than Michigan, which has been a criticism, and run into a brick wall game, it's going to make things more difficult for them. And that's the strength of the Michigan defense and arguably the weakness of Ohio State. For Michigan, how are they going to score in this one? Michigan outside of the top 100 in red zone scoring offense. Buckeyes #1 in that category. And we saw that going back in the Texas game, even going back to last season with the Buckeyes. While Michigan has a great ground attack, Justice Hayes has missed all of November with a foot injury. Back with Jordan Marshall, shoulder injury. We expect him to be back for this one, but that's something to watch. If Michigan doesn't have quality receivers on the outside, if Underwood has to drop back, pass consistently, it's likely the Ohio State defense led by Matt Patricia eats them up, quite frankly. Before the Maryland game, Underwood had gone 3 straight games without a passing touchdown versus the likes of Michigan State, Purdue, and Northwestern. Overall, like I said, we're waiting on the status of the wide receivers. If they're formally announced in, I do expect to take a Buckeyes money, and I think the flat 10s in the market would be cheap in that case. I'll probably be on that, although the weather might hold me up there. Total-wise, Ohio State's pace, potential conservative nature of both coaches. I did play some first half under, albeit at a number that's a little bit gone at that one. If both wide receivers are in, the total ticks up. Maybe that pushes up a little bit. I don't think it's going to be worse than the 23.5 I got, but honestly, I would play it down to 21.5. I think that's a great play. I also think Michigan team total under is another great look. I know some are hesitant with those low team total unders in the teens, but if we're going to get around 17.5 with Michigan, no Ohio State opponent scored more than 16 this year. It's hard to see Michigan putting up the most points any team has done on the Buckeyes this season based on their profile.
No, that's absolutely a great call out. The under on team total Michigan is definitely the right way to look with everything you just said. If Michigan's going to win cover, this game has to be uglied up, and they're going to need defensive heroics or a special teams touchdown or something to really change the game and create short fields for them. They're not going to be able to get long sustained touchdown drives.
Honestly, like last year, if you like Michigan, maybe you throw in an all under or something. Like if you're trying to big, lotto hunt here and play something, with some big plus money on it, maybe that's like an angle, something you consider.
Final big game breakdown of this Week 14 regular season. Something that's never happened in Bobby and I's lifetime ever. A meaningful Vanderbilt game in November. Here we are. The Vanderbilt Commodores currently catching 3 points, headed to Knoxville with a total of 65.5. This Vanderbilt team, led by Diego Pavia and this hyper-efficient offense, is going to take on a Tennessee team that really only struggles when they can't keep their quarterback upright. We don't think that's going to be the case here. We're going to see a lot of points. Bobby, could you tell us more about this one?
Yeah, Diego Pavia looking to make his final impression on the Heisman market here in Knoxville Saturday afternoon. I think him and the Commodores offense are, like you said, are going to have success, opportunities to put up points. The Vols are outside the top 100 in success rate defense, both overall and individually against the run and pass. Additionally, poor in EPA defense, being outside the top 90 in those categories. Vandy's offense has been hyper efficient, #1 in early down EPA, #2 in success rate overall. They do a great job moving the ball methodically and being explosive at times as well. What is going to be interesting here is this is going to allow Vandy to possess the football. When we get over to the Tennessee side, they're near the bottom in terms of a simple stat, offensive time of possession, due to Tennessee's frantic pace.
Right.
While Vandy takes his time with the ball, and they're in the top. They're one of the slowest teams in the country as far as like how well they hold on to the ball and whatnot. And I expect this Vols defense to die by 1,000 cuts here with this one. Based on that, and they just think this Tennessee defense is going to be on the field a ton. And this one is turns, number of plays and actual time. As for Tennessee, Joey Aguilar, I expect them to have some success as well. Aguilar's poor under pressure, and the Vandy front isn't too threatening. Vandy's defense outside the top 100 in passing success and defensive EPA per drive. And they give up their share of explosives in the passing game as well, something we saw the Vols take advantage of against Georgia early in the season. In this one, we've seen some move on Vandy. They blew through the 3 at one point, obviously taking out the 3.5s. You see some Vols buyback on 2.5 earlier today, and even like right before we went live here. Total this one up 64.5, up to 60, 65.5. I think I saw 66 earlier. Yep. Totals lined very high. Similar range, actually higher than what Tennessee and Mississippi State was, which are two higher paced teams. And it's the highest Vandy total in the season, being the first Vandy total to be in the 60s this season. So obviously, like, the offensive advantages that we spoke of here is accounted for. But ultimately, I think the Vandy team total over, which I think is going to be around like 30 in the 31 range. I think that's going to be the thing I might look for in this one. They're no doubt live in the game. I trust their pathway to points a little bit more. They have a special teams edge, and just I don't trust Joey Aguilar's decision makings. So I think the Commodores are live here. I think Pavia can obviously stay in the Heisman race, depending on results in other games. But I think lean to the Vandy team total under in this one, over in this one.
Guys, before we move on to the Market Movers segment, I want to make a quick programming note. Bobby and I will be back here on Sunday, as usual, to talk about everything that happened Week 14, as well as just look back at the regular season. We will be back here, a special program Tuesday night and Wednesday night, breaking down each of the 9 conference championship games for you guys. Everything from CUSA to the SEC to the Big Ten championship game, and even some Heisman thoughts. So we have an additional show next week. Just want to make that note as we transition from the regular season to playoffs and bowl season. Bobby, we got a game on Thanksgiving night, Navy at Memphis. Why don't you walk us through it?
Yep. As you said, decent two-way here. The 6s got removed that we mentioned on Sunday, and now there are some 4.5s earlier. Now we've kind of settled in kind of that 5.5 range, and a little bit of under money too, flattening out the varying totals. Like I said, we saw 60 and 58.5 and 59s on Sunday night. Now we've kind of leveled out in that 58.5 range. Continuing on, 317, 318, the Egg Bowl, Mississippi State money took out the hooks. We're seeing 7s. In that one, I still think if you're betting Mississippi State now, you're really leaning into the Lane Kiffin stuff and not playing like a math point spread based number. And I could see some maybe buyback at Ole Miss below the 7 if you think that the subjective stuff doesn't matter. In this case, if you do, I think it's Mississippi State money line. Like if you do think that stuff matters, high variance game. 319, 320, Iowa, Nebraska. Slight tick of Iowa money, moving this up to 6 and 6.5. Just poor showing versus Sparty last week for the Hawkeyes. I think this is more of a fate of Nebraska, and specifically the Nebraska run defense. 327, 328, Air Force, Colorado State. Really good CLV so far on this total for us from Sunday. We gave out 49, and now we're seeing 45. Colorado State also suspended their QB for spitting incident. So that helped us get some market agreement there. But as we mentioned with the Air Force quarterback as well. So both teams missing a quarterback in this one. Very happy with that best bet CLV in that one. 329, 330, Georgia Tech. We're seeing some 14s out there. That's where we thought we might see on Sunday night. That's where I expected to close. 337, 338, Indiana, Purdue. Some early openers and look-aheads on this one had this below the 28. And obviously we've gone through that. Circa some offshore PPA shops as well, showing 29. I think we see a 30 at least before kickoff here. Moving on to Saturday, 351, 352, JMU, Coastal Carolina. Hand up. I missed the Coastal injury last week when I gave out the total. Thankfully, South Carolina helped us a ton there. But here, I think it needs to be adjusted more. Coastal was playing like a bottom 10, 15 team in the country before Collier stepped in. So definitely considering the Coastal team total under here. 361, 362, Wake Forest and Duke. Big move here. 3.5s and 3 have left us. And now we're seeing -1 in the market. I've liked this Wake team quite a bit. Just a team that's played really well when they're playing teams that are like them as far as like level of athlete. Definitely agree with the move here on Wake Forest. I think they beat Duke here.
What's your thoughts on the total in this game? I'm real curious about the move up because I like Wake as well. But just thinking it's going to be they rely on their defense. Obviously, Duke's defense can give it up. They gave up 24 points last week to North Carolina. But just your thoughts here on 55 and 55.5. Is that a good total, or perhaps we see this settle at something lesser than that?
I think it's fine where it is. I haven't thought or done too much work on the total. I was right around in this area code anyway. And then obviously like Duke kind of plays a little bit to an over, Wake Forest to an under. So not a total I've done too much work on, honestly.
Gotcha.
375, 376, Virginia Tech, Virginia. Another move I agree with. I'll go down with the ship on the UVA fade. I bought through the 10 here. I like the Hokies at 10 or better, and this one my number is closer to 8.5. 385, 386, Army, UTSA. Alamo Dome home field and a potential matchup on the Army's back end. Secondary has blown this through the 7. I don't hate it, but I do think if you're buying UTSA now, you are buying near the top of the market on this one. But do think they win that game. 405, 406, ULM, ULL. Big move on the Warhawks. Early opener, 13.5. Now we're down below 10. I would think that based on ULM's general play style, that if there's a big move on the Warhawks, that would be connected to an under. That would be my lean in this one, would be under. 419, 420, Western Kentucky, Jacksonville State. Market continues to hate the Gamecocks. Western moved out to some 3s out there. So if you like them, I would still wait. Maybe you get better later in the week in a big matchup in Conference USA. 433, 434, Oregon, Washington. Most of the 7s are gone. A couple still remaining out there. Still prefer that look, but we're waiting on the injury report. I haven't gotten any updates, as it says just Tuesday, and then it's probably going to be a bit harder with it being holiday week anyway. 437, 438, Oregon State, Washington State. Second meeting between these two teams. 10-7 Oregon State victory at the beginning of the month. Just a note, previous game closed, Washington State -2.5 in Corvallis, and a total of 47.5. Currently, seeing some 13.5, 114 out there, and 41 as the total. Big moves considering these teams met just a couple weeks ago on November 1st. Oregon State is off the bye. Wazoo traveling back to the Palouse from playing at James Madison. I could never lay it with the Cougars here. And then the last game on the board, the last game of the CFB regular season to kick off, 441, 442, Wyoming and Hawaii on the island. Wyoming 10s got wiped out. We're down to 8.5 again. So I haven't gotten to this one myself, but that's obviously a big move for the week.
Bobby, you made a glaring omission, and the people are dying to know your thoughts on what barely missed the cutting room floor for our big game breakdown. Florida State at Florida. God. Charles in the chat would love to hear your guys' thoughts for Florida State, Florida. Boots on the ground supporting my sliding alma mater. Charles, I got my thoughts. Sunday morning coffee, we gave out the under 52.5. We've seen nothing but under money come in. I don't think you can trust Florida's offense as much as you can't trust Florida State's. Both these teams kind of hapless. It almost feels like a game that both these teams and coaches just want to get out of there, man. I can't see anybody wanting to play this game. The under for me, for sure, in this one. I would still play the under. I feel like Florida for sure can't score any points. Bobby, what are your thoughts?
I agree on the under in this one. Not one I've played yet, and I do like that FanDuel number out there, 51.5. As far as the side goes, just to be frank, I have no idea how to make a number in this game. In terms of the motivation for both teams, how they've come into the game, just the up and down play styles, just I don't know what to do as far as the side. I have no idea who wins. Have fun at the game, Charles. I might have an under ticket, but I would like to not think about this game.
Yeah, I mean, what would you see here?
Sorry, man.
Florida State has an extra day prep, right? But Florida's coming off a run of Georgia.
Oh, their schedule's brutal.
At Kentucky, at Ole Miss, and then they got Tennessee at home, but Tennessee had 2 weeks prepared for that game. So it's been a really tough run of games. Florida only closed a 3-point dog at home last week, and it was never a game, but it is surprising this number is as low as it is. But I'm with you, man. There's no way I could touch the side.
Yeah, maybe it's the lowest.
Maybe in game's worth a look. Maybe one team looks more quit.
That's probably the best angle. Yeah. I like your call out on the under. But yeah, this is a game you're going to want to play live based on like just watching like who shows up, quite frankly. But yeah, I don't have too much of an interest in this one.
Guys, before we get into our final best bets of the regular season, please click that like and subscribe button if you're on YouTube. It really does go a long way, letting the algorithm know that this is quality betting content, and it does help serve our channel to other bettors in search of good quality betting content. If you're on Spotify or iTunes, please click that 5-star button. It does the exact same thing. It lets the algorithm know that, hey, these guys might know what they're talking about. And we're kind of helpful sometimes. So, Bobby, with that, let's do a quick recap of Sunday's best bets. Let me get Charles's comment off there. There we go. We had Alabama -5.5. We're seeing some market agreement as we've seen the game move to 6. And then, as you mentioned, Colorado State Air Force under 49 was our play. Currently sits under 45 with the quarterback spitting issues. If you want to hear a further breakdown of those games, just go back and listen to Sunday's show. So our best bet, or one best bet for tonight, Utah State +3.5. We really like Bronco Mendenhall's boys here to not just cover, but most likely win outright against Boise State.
Yeah, one more comment for Charles. Florida State might be the second saddest game on the schedule behind Syracuse Boston College. Just quick thought there.
Point.
Yeah, quick addition. Second saddest game on the slate this weekend. But yeah, give us the Aggies here +3.5. Big home road splits for Utah State, who are 5-0 straight up and against the spread in Logan this season. Boise, big performance at Colorado State last week, but quite frankly, like they quit 3 months ago. New Boise quarterback Max Cutforth. He's not inspiring. And I'm worried about Zaire Gaines, Broncos ground attack here against a poor Utah State defense. But I trust the pig farmer, Breaks and Barnes, to get after this Boise defense. Full season metrics have propped up the Boise passing attack, but go look at the passing defenses they play, or passing offenses they play. Big coaching edge, Bronco Mendenhall. Give me the Aggies in an outright upset. And then for the second best bet, let's go to noon between a game of two programs in Ohio and Michigan, playing for a spot in the conference title game, but it's in the MAC. Give us Toledo minus the 10.5. There are some 10s out there. Obviously, bet that. Shop around. Power number makes this 13.5. Toledo, no doubt, the most talented team in the MAC. They have been for years. But when they face MAC opponents who are run-based, like Central Michigan, 38-9 against Ball State, 24-3 against Miami, Ohio, and then a big win, 42-3 against Northern Illinois last 3 games. Chips going to have a hard time running the ball. They don't have a passing game to get out of it, and when they do have to pass, the Toledo pass rush should wreak havoc on Central. I like Toledo by margin here. And unfortunately, Jason Candle as a big road favorite, but we like Toledo at minus the points in this one.
You can follow Bobby at BobbyDigital2 on Twitter. You can follow the show at CFB900 on Twitter. We hope to have some Sunday morning coffee for you this coming Sunday. Just don't know what the market openers are going to look like, as this will be a little bit unusual as we head into conference title week. Like we mentioned earlier, Bobby and I will be back here not just this Sunday, but also Tuesday and Wednesday next week to break down each and every one of those conference championship games. We're going to go deep dive into all the conference title games to talk sides, totals, possible playoff implications, everything in between. So join us back here Sunday night. Best of luck to you guys with all of your bets. Happy Thanksgiving, and we'll see you soon. Adios.